today we've got a really special guest to come present to us about how BEE works. So we've got Janine. Janine is from the Development Connection, and she'll be presenting to us. So welcome, Janine. So good to have you here. And would you take it away and tell us all about how BEE works and what it means for us as individuals within our own organizations? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm Janine Cairns from the Development Connection. I'm here to share about how BEE works to drive the economy forward. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you who have made the time to attend the talk, and I would also like to extend a big thank you to David Bauer from the Friday Club for providing this platform and all his hard work in advertising this event. I've been working in the BEE space for about 6 years now and have assisted a number of companies to achieve their BEE objectives. I've seen the good and bad and the ugly in the industry. Today, we will learn about how BEE works to drive economic growth, and we'll also touch on ways that you could leverage the scorecard to grow and improve your business. Compliant companies do get access to business opportunities that other companies don't get. So South Africa has a history of people being disenfranchised and subjected to substandard educational opportunities that generally only qualified them to work in jobs that are in the lower classes. These challenges created problems that reached down the generations because the affected families did not have the right to build wealth that could be passed down their generational lines, but also placed them in a position where they could not give the best advice for the new world that their children were stepping into. They also did not have networks that could offer their children access to mentorship or employment opportunities that other groups may have had. They could also not afford to buy good quality education. Many of the people that entered the market after 1994 had experienced Bantu education in their formative years, which set them at a disadvantage at the outset. This created a need for a form of redress that could empower the next generation and give them full access to the economy, and thus broad-based Black economic empowerment legislation was born. The current BEE Act has been designed with a view of growing a strong middle class. The size of the middle class and level of equality can affect economic growth. Can affect economic growth by promoting the development of human capital and providing a well-educated population. It also creates a stable source of demand for goods and services. It also incubates the next generation of entrepreneurs. A strong middle class also provides a stable tax base that provides inclusive political and economic institutions. Through the procurement element, there's also a very strong emphasis on localizing our supply chain, which not only creates the obvious opportunities for employment and the development of SMMEs and business ownership locally, having the bulk of the supply chain internalized makes the economy resilient to some of the challenges that became evident during the pandemic. Most of the world relies heavily on Shanghai, for example, for semiconductors and electronics, and as a result, a lot of factory floors ground to a halt when transport from Shanghai was interrupted. We won't talk about the toilet paper debacle and the impact the war in the Ukraine is having on the world food supply. If localization is implemented effectively, South Africa would become relatively immune to the challenges faced globally, may even have access to new export markets. Working in the industry, I find a lot of resistance to the strict rules around what imports are allowed and not allowed to be excluded in the procurement, and a strong emphasis on utilizing or developing local supply, but there's method in the perceived madness. South Africa is rich in natural resources, and we very often export these to be processed elsewhere and buy them back at inflated prices. With the added transport costs and tariffs added, doing things locally is also kinder to the environment and contributes to sustainability. The levers that move the procurement element are shopping with compliant companies, smaller companies that have turnovers below 50 million, companies that are at least 51% Black owned or at least 30% Black women owned. Women as a rule are more marginalized in the economy, and the scorecard creates opportunities for them to have access. A great deal of emphasis is placed on giving SMMEs access to the supply chains of larger entities. A white-owned company with a turnover of under 10 million also contributes to extra points on the scorecard because they are a small but exempted enterprise and an automatic level 4. The supply and enterprise development elements dovetail beautifully with procurement. Supplier development creates opportunities to develop Black-owned SMMEs that are already in your supply chain, that you can help to improve the quality of goods and services that they offer you that align with your needs, and also help you as a business owner to develop better relationship with a supplier, which will pay dividends in the future. Enterprise development offers a chance to develop and empower new suppliers in your industry or industries that touch on yours. Whilst on the topic of procurement, this element is also the key driving factor in the adoption of the scorecard. Compliance to the BEE scorecard is not compulsory, but strongly encouraged in that any institution in government that purchases goods or issues licenses needs to follow a system that provides preference in the allocation of contracts in respect of the protection or advancement of people who were previously disadvantaged. So any company wishing to do business with government or to get a license from government needs to be compliant. And as a result, any companies that wish to do business with those companies also need to be compliant, because preferential procurement forms such an integral part of the scorecard. Ownership, which is a much aligned element of the scorecard, is what we'll talk about next. There is a perception in the market due to nefarious actors who chose to place extraordinary emphasis on this element because it offers what appears to be a quick fix to companies that have a turnover of less than 50 million. If companies are at least 51 or 100% Black owned, they qualify for a level 2 or 1 respectively. This benefit, however, falls away when companies exceed the 50 million and takes away control from the person that had the vision to start the company. There was talk of giving away this ownership in order to be compliant. This is not necessary. Companies with a turnover between 10 million and 50 million and generic companies only need to have ownership in the range of 25%, depending on which sector they fall in. So this covers economic interest and voting rights. If Black women and designated groups are included in that 25%, you could almost achieve full points for this element on the generic scorecard. And to avoid discounting, which is the second leg of forcing people to work with ownership, you only need to have at least 40% of the net value calculation, which relates to how much of that ownership is actually truly owned by the person and not indebted. Ownership is actually intended to be a mutually beneficial arrangement between the company and the new owner. Foreign entities can make use of the equity equivalence program, and all companies could make use of the sale of assets to get their ownership sorted out. These are both very expensive, but there are options available to people that do not want to let go of full control of their companies. Ownership can also be given to a broad-based ownership scheme, which it could be a trust which offers education to previously disadvantaged people. And while I'm talking about ownership, I want to talk about fronting. Fronting is a criminal offense. People can go to jail for fronting. And ownership, the reason why I'm talking about it while I'm talking about ownership is that one place where this is very popular. A lot of people are fronting and don't realize what they're up to. So a typical example of fronting could be a lady who serves tea being given ownership in the company with no real economic benefits or no voting rights. So that person actually derives no benefit from the ownership, but is put on the scorecard and companies get extra business. And that is a direct case of fronting. There was a very popular case of a lady who was a receptionist who, when she resigned, she was told that she had to sign papers to exit as an owner of the company. She was quite shocked. Another common fronting practice is splitting a company so that the parts remain below 10 million. So one of my favorite elements on the scorecard is the skills development element. This creates access to education and workplace exposure that provides young people with people with disabilities with opportunities to access the economy. This is so important for economic stability. South Africa is facing youth unemployment rate in the age group from 15 to 26 of over 60%. Besides the fact that these young people resort to crime and violent protests to make themselves heard, they're also not getting opportunity to build assets and wealth over time, which will perpetuate the historical challenges. If the skills development is applied properly and programs are structured in a way that provides young people with skills that are in demand in the local economy and across the world and empowers them to lead, skills development will be much more meaningful than following a tick box approach. And we'll see a shift in these statistics. It is encouraged that businesses grow skills that impact their own sector, and there are bonus points available for companies that train young people that are absorbed into permanent workplace opportunities, either in their own companies or in industry at large. If you feel your own workforce is adequately empowered, you can offer other companies much needed resources to grow and develop. So the management control element looks at who has control of aspects of the company. These people do not need to have people reporting to them. They just need to have a level of decision-making within the business in order to be counted for the scorecard. The final element we'll discuss is socioeconomic development, a key factor that divides normal corporate social investment from socioeconomic development is that socioeconomic development requires that you contribute to a person or people having access to the economy. So fixing a school can contribute, but only if the work is being done is in a way that will contribute to education. If you're as passionate as I am about skills development, this is another opportunity to invest in some of that. One of my favorite initiatives include giving leadership training to school children and seeing how they step into opportunities when they leave school because they have been empowered. Being a BE consultant is one of the greatest careers in the world today because we get to spend other people's money to make other people's lives better and in a small way contribute to a better South Africa. Thank you for listening, and I trust that you may now see BE in a different light. If you wish to learn more or possibly make use of our services, please reach out to me on janine@thedevcon.co.za or 083 400 8774.
Wow, Janine, that was so amazing. I mean, I must say, I can see that you're a total expert at this, and there are a lot of points there to ponder on. I must say, I found the issue regarding ownership as well as youth very, 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 very exciting. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there, especially in the youth side. So if you haven't got a BE certificate, please get hold of Janine. And if you're pondering how to actually improve your BE score, get hold of Janine because she will be able to tell you exactly how, and she'll work with you to do that. So Janine, I assume you are available to have a coffee date with each person here. Please do that. And if nothing happens from it, at least you'll be further educated on the how BE works. So thank you, Janine. Let's give her applause. Fantastic. Thank you very much.